Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested, and today I want to share my thoughts from a hands-on preview event I went to at Sony's US headquarters in San Mateo to check out the PlayStation 5 Pro. And when I say a hands-on experience with the PS5 Pro, I mean I was invited along with a bunch of other journalists to go to the headquarters and go in this large conference room where they had developers from a variety of titles. 11 games there showed in these setups where TVs were stacked on top of each other, showing the difference between games played on the PS5 in either current performance modes or fidelity modes, and then also on the new PS5 Pro, as well as large TVs showing what games would look like upscaled to 8K, or even with features like 120 hertz and ray tracing turned on. And yes, the PS5 Pro, in terms of new bells and whistles, does support things like 8K and ray tracing. But fundamentally, this extra 45% speed boost in the GPU, and that's the major technical difference, allows for one simple thing: the ability to play PS5 games, the ones that developers will adapt and support, in what would normally be their fidelity modes, the highest quality graphics modes, but at the performance mode frame rates, your 60 FPS targets. There are some use cases where, for example, if you turn ray tracing on in GT7, you're locked to 30 FPS max, and some advantages as well to the library of games whose developers don't actively turn on all these benefits. If the games struggle to hit 30 frames per second, or have variable frame rate, or are using the standard PlayStation dynamic resolution scaling, those can get subtle boosts, but it's not as dramatic as if a developer like Insomniac or Guerrilla Games actually modifies their games to take advantage of the new SDKs for the PS5 Pro. So in practice, and what you're going to watch here is over-the-shoulder footage of me looking at these games. I mean, it's through a compressed YouTube window, so really hard to tell, but the difference is there. Difference is notable. I mean, especially when we're talking about seeing on one screen the PS5 performance, and then on another screen the PS5 Pro in what some developers call a versatility mode or performance pro mode, which fundamentally is that fidelity mode, but at a smoother frame rate. And Sony has said, and I think in practice it's true, most people turn on the performance mode when given the option. They want that smoother frame rate because when you're playing a game, the difference between 30 FPS and 60 FPS, that's going to be much more of a meaningful difference than the extra draw distance or aliasing or fewer upscaling artifacts when you render at the fidelity mode. Because as you may know, most games, even on the PS5, don't actually render natively. They don't target their rendering at actually 4K. The TV might be getting a 4K signal, and that's because of the PlayStation 5's internal upscaler, but game engines have features that do reconstruction, that can dynamically change what the game is actually rendering at and use their own engine's abilities, like for Insomniac's case, use temporal injection to reconstruct the scene and give you as best of the detail, as close as a detail would be to a 4K image, even though it's not rendering at the 4K image. And the PS5 Pro taps into a new way of doing scene upscaling or reconstruction called PSSR, PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution. This would, in practice, replace something like Insomniac's temporal injection and be a smarter way of doing that scene reconstruction and doing an upscaling. Looking at the demos, they didn't give me a A/B comparison between, for example, temporal injection and PSSR, but PSSR look good, specifically in the long draw distances, things like aliasing in fine lines in Spider-Man 2, for example. If you're looking at the wires on a suspension bridge or the antenna on top of a skyscraper, those look less shimmery, those look more defined and less jagged. Particles are a big place where PSSR makes a big difference. The algorithm is AI trained to better adapt for these random movements of particles, so you get less ghosting as it's trying to predict the movement of them. And it actually looked and felt more dense in a scene, like the opening scene of Ratchet and Clank. But I felt like the difference was noticeable because there was this direct A/B comparison test and standing probably closer to the TVs than I would normally be doing at home. Didn't feel like the real world experience or test. This is especially noticeable in something like ray tracing, which I saw on GT7. And when chatting with the developer and he showed me ray tracing turned on, yes, I could notice things like, actual reflections in the side mirrors of the car, or comparing the way the sunlight hits the paint of one of these cars. Yeah, the bloom looked more realistic in the shadows, or when a car is really close to you, you can actually see its reflection reflected on your car. This is all stuff that's noticeable when you pause the game and switch ray tracing on and off, but when actually playing the game, not really that meaningful from my short experience. It's going to be for the pixel peepers and more like the satisfaction of knowing, okay, yes, the ray tracing is there, it's more realistic. But honestly, the shaders that these games use today to simulate these reflections and light are really good enough. Ray tracing may not be worth it, especially if even on the PS5 Pro, you're playing that at only 30 FPS. So for those supported games and in this demo environment at this event, the difference was noticeable. The difference was absolutely there. So, why does this not feel right? And it's not just the price. I think back to when the PS4 Pro launched in 2016. A lot of similar characteristics. It was only going to be supported for games where developers would enable it, not across the entire suite of games. But it was also a time where features like 4K and HDR matched that transition period where people were just starting to buy 4K TVs and HDR TVs en masse, and where the PS4 didn't support those features. And it had immediate benefits to the first generation of PSVR games, for example. So that feels like more of a meaningful change than PS5 Pro, where the PS5's biggest features were, in my opinion, the faster memory, SSD for those immediate load times, and those seamless open worlds. That's already in the systems today. The just getting the extra 45% increase in GPU clock speed and also PSSR on paper feels a little less meaningful than what the PS4 Pro did for consumers as they're evolving over the journey of owning a PS4. It's also the case that because of the PS5 Pro's appeal is this idea of no longer having to compromise, no longer to choose between performance and fidelity, it calls kind of to attention and highlights the fact that for this generation of PS5, we had to choose between these things. That PS5 launched kind of as a compromise compared to those same games ported over to PC, where you just buy the latest GPU and you never had to have that choice. And let's be honest, I think Sony knows there's no shortage of their hardcore fans or even consumers out there who are willing to spend a lot of money, and $700 on the best, what they would consider the best. I mean, the $1,000 classic bundle that sold out immediately this week is kind of proof of that. But I think those hardcore fans out there who want to spend that much money, or are willing to spend that much money, want to know that what they're buying is definitively the best, that there is no compromise in the hardware that they're making. And here, obviously, the compromise is the lack of that optical drive. The fact that there's only one version of the PS5 Pro, and at $700, it is a version that you have to still spend additional money to get an optical drive and that stand. And it's not about the extra, upsell accessories. I think some people would have been happy to spend maybe even a little more money with a PS5 Pro that had the optical drive built in. It's more of that acknowledgement and that, that physical media is something that game companies are moving away from. They're just moving to downloads and games as a service and subscription packages for games. And this PS5 Pro feels a little bit like a bellwether for that. And it's frustrating, I'm sure, for fans of Blu-ray and physical media to not even be able to voice their opinion with their wallets. It's not like they can choose to buy the more expensive PS5 Pro version if it had a built-in optical drive. Just buying the optical drive accessory kind of then validates Sony's decision to not have it bundled in. And that fear, is going to project forward to what does it mean for an eventual PlayStation 6? Will that have an optical drive bundled in or not? And my hope is that certainly there will still be an option with it bundled in, but the PS5 Pro kind of indicates maybe not. So, if and when we get to review formally the PS5 Pro outside of this controlled demo environment in a real scenario using our own TVs at the distances that we normally would be playing these games, I'll be looking at yes, performance and the quality of PSSR and what that may speak to, how that might benefit PSVR 2 games. But I do think fans out there should continue to be vocal about their desire and support for a built-in optical drive, to push against this sea change as long as possible, and hopefully Sony is listening. I know there has been a lot of tech coverage on the channel this week, but I promise we have a lot more fun builds coming up in the coming weeks, some behind the scenes coverage as well. So thanks for bearing with my indulgences this week. Thank you all for watching. I'm Norm, and I will see you next time. Bye.